Okay, now it's working. I talked through the first 3 minutes of the last one before I realized it's not actually happening. So today I'm talking about mindfulness and what it has to do with manifestation and how it affects your relationship. Um, so mindfulness is a really important aspect of manifestation, in my opinion. I know that there are some people out there that will tell you different, but I feel that most of the people that I work with, they have needs outside of simply just thinking a thought. Oh, and hello. I can't see who you are, so hello, Facebook user. If you are watching me live, I would love it if you would tell me who you are, because yeah, again, I'm just talking to my computer, so it's a little bit, seems a little weird. And if you're watching the replay, let me know in the comments. Okay, mindfulness. I find that a lot of people really put up a lot of resistance when it comes to mindfulness. And I am not going to claim that I am always really consistent, but I do have enough, I guess, foundation. I was very consistent in the beginning, and now I definitely use it more when I want life to work for me, basically. And so a lot of people really, they resist mindfulness when I ask them, do you have a practice? Or they'll be inconsistent. And so that might be because there are a lot of, I guess, misconceptions about what mindfulness or meditation need to look like, or even what they are. So mindfulness basically is the act of consciously focusing your mind into the present moment without judgment and without attachment to, I guess, to the moment and to the story that's running. It's where you become present right now. And so mindfulness has a lot of benefits. Research, hands down, has basically determined that it has a whole lot of, it does a whole lot for us in our life. But the idea of teaching your mind to focus and to become really present in the moment can be really challenging, because you are in essence learning a new skill. We're always told to concentrate, but most of us were never actually shown how. And so with social media and with the fast pace of life, maybe not so much now, with so many people in lockdowns, but that adds an entirely different layer of stressors. Being mindful can, as I said, be a challenge, and it can even be, I guess, scary or really unpleasant for some people, because in that stillness, you are alone with your own mind. And at that point, if you don't know what to do with the thoughts and the feelings that might come up for you, that can be a deterrent. I definitely understand that. Other things that people will say is that they fall asleep. And yeah, sometimes we do fall asleep. And other times what's actually happening is, because as you practice mindfulness consistently, it begins to change your brain wave patterns. And so, or I guess it begins to change the pattern that you run most often. And so what can be happening is, when you're meditating, if you find that you sort of blank out for a while, but then as it ends, you come to, you're probably not sleeping. What's actually happening is your brain patterns have dropped down below alpha, so into delta or theta, and you're probably processing out a lot of low vibrational energy. So that's actually can be a really good thing. And so it shouldn't deter you from meditating at all. And so why be mindful? Mindfulness practices, they help us increase our ability to regulate our emotions. They decrease stress and anxiety, and they have an effect on depression, because the degree to which we are present and focus on things in our life has been shown to have a direct correlation with happiness, and with our ability to identify the negative narrative that's running in your mind as actually not yours and just something that you've taken on from outside of yourself. Because our brains, neuroplasticity shows us that our brains are constantly changing. We're constantly taking information in and weighing it against our current beliefs and determining whether or not we're going to apply it or whether we're going to leave it. But either way, your beliefs and your brain are always in a state of change. And most of the time we're completely unaware of it. And so this is where mindfulness, the ability to begin to disconnect from that, can be really beneficial. And so, as I said, it improves focus. It allows us to become more detached from, I guess, the experience that we're having and be able to respond rather than react. Because most of us, I'm sure, I know I'm guilty of becoming very reactive as stress increases, or I'm running a negative story, or I happen to be having an experience that just is really overwhelming. And so the solution for that is mindfulness. All right. And so, yeah, although we tend to put up a lot of resistance, mindfulness actually doesn't need to take up a significant amount of time. And it will really begin to detach us from that hurry, 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 I don't have time. And I know personally, I can really get sucked into that. So in my last job, I was a technical writer in my previous life, and I was working for a university. And we were coming up to a deadline for a really prominent research journal. And so all the students and all the professors would oh, thank you. Thank you, Tracy. All the professors and students would all send their papers in all at one time. And because in that moment, I'm not sure if I just had like a complete blank out or what my problem was. I had convinced myself that I basically needed to work these ridiculous hours. So I found myself working like 20-hour days. So, and then the last 2 days of the push, I didn't sleep at all. I worked like a solid 40 hours straight. It was stupid. It was a terrible idea. And when I look back at the work that I did, I just thought, really? And what would have helped me was to recognize that the harder you try and the more you push and the more stress you have, it decreases your energy field. And I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're manifesting or whether you are editing research papers, you're ineffective. And so now sort of having that, hindsight is 2020. So having that to look back on, I was able to recognize when I kind of get caught in this loop, because I've done this a lot in my life. And so now I'm sort of beginning to detangle that. So when I get caught in this like push, harder, routine, I can catch myself, and then I will actively block out time for mindfulness as if it's like an appointment. And so how did what else? Mindfulness, other things that it can do is to help you regulate your emotions, which is really important, particularly when you want to manifest something that maybe you might have some fear around, or when the doubt creeps in. So a regular mindfulness practice will help you deal with that. So I came about mindfulness kind of by accident. I was working a really high stress job, and at one point I was so overstimulated, I just needed 5 minutes. So I locked myself away in the bathroom, and all I could hear was my own breathing. And I noticed what effect that actually had on my physiology. And so that was the last time I did that for probably 2 years. And then I'll tell you the story about kind of when I came to start using mindfulness more consistently a little later. But one example I will tell you about how it can really help you begin to detach from your experience, particularly if it's really stressful, So in another previous life, I was an education aide in a kindergarten. And I have a lot of experience with children, particularly in the behavioral range. So I was brought in to work with a kindergarten teacher who was so delightful, but had a really hard time being mean because she, or at least what she thought was mean. So she could never really follow through with any of her threats, and the kids are really smart, so they figured that out really fast. And so it was really frustrating for me because I always have to follow the lead of the teacher. So my hands were tied a lot, and we had 3 very smart, very rambunctious boys that were basically wreaking havoc in kindergarten. And so for the first little while, I had sort of set my mindfulness practice aside at this point. Bad idea. And so for the first part, probably for the first 2 months that I worked there, I used all the regular coping mechanisms: crying, sleeping, excessive wine drinking. And then as it got towards the end of the year, the pressure really started to get to me because because we didn't work on long-term contracts, we basically sort of looped from one year to another. So how well I did in this position had an effect on whether or not I was brought back in again. And so this pressure really, like the importance around this kind of got a little crazy. Yeah. Kindergarten was really fun. I actually really love that age group, but children are really smart. So I spent a lot of time it was like a constant game of chess. Doesn't matter what you do, they've got a way to get around it. So as the year as it got closer and my anxiety got higher, and I just started like making all these associations to like, oh no, that's it, I'm never going to be hired again, and just like, you know how your mind can go crazy. I decided to start meditating because what happens for me is yes, exactly. Exactly why I like working with you. So what I find is when I'm stressed at work, I 100% bring that home. I'm that person. I know I'm that person, and sometimes I forget I'm that person, but I am. So I started sort of bleeding that anxiety and stress all over my family, and so that had to stop. Because at work, you know, you're in this work persona, so you don't bleed that over work so much, but then your family they get the repercussions. And so I started meditating regularly every day after work. And what I found was by the end of the year, the children became calmer because I was a lot less concerned about what was happening. And I had let go of this, like, I'll never work again story. And like, I'm being outsmarted by a 5-year-old, and like all the things that were really just unraveling me. I just was like, eh. And like the drinking, the excessive wine, all of those things, really, I could just sort of set those aside. And so I have found that meditation is amazing for allowing you to disconnect from a really, not just the overwhelming aspects of life, but whatever story is running that is causing your nervous system to basically be on high alert. And it really brought me more into the present moment. And I was able to see in perspective that if I was hired into this position, I obviously have, you know, a lot of experience and blah, 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 right? So I was able to just look at my fears and see them for what they were. And so how does mindfulness affect your relationship and manifestation? Well, aside from giving you tools to become more present, it can really, if you're in a relationship, it can allow things to begin to be calmer. It lets you kind of let go of any of those useless stories that you might be running that are creating friction and havoc, or that are causing you to feel a lot of really negative emotions, which you might try to hide, but everybody sees them. And so that's one way. Another way is, and so I guess this is what brings me into what I do and why mindfulness is really important when you are manifesting, particularly if you are having, I guess, emotional experiences that kind of are creating blocks for you, because Negative emotions, when coupled with a belief or when coupled with an experience, create a belief, because really high intensity emotions, whether positive or negative, impress your subconscious mind. And that is why you could be happily married for X number of years and your partner says one really extreme painful thing to you, and even if it's completely crazy, it begins to chip away at your relationship and your confidence in the relationship, because you've just created a belief. And so mindfulness allows you to not only begin to get rid of the stress and disconnect from those stories and release those beliefs, because it raises your awareness to them. It also allows you to begin to rewire your brain. Research has even shown that it reduces your amount of implicit bias. And in my opinion, we could all stand to just see people for who they are and not how we were conditioned from society or whatever to see them. And so these are definitely benefits. But when it comes to manifesting, meditation actually connects you to the awareness field. And so particularly when you're doing it consistently. And so I'm going to, in tomorrow's video talk that I will be posting, talk about the different kinds of meditations, because there's no wrong way to do it. In fact, just being mindful, period, begins to connect you to that field. And we are, at our most fundamental level, pure awareness, pure consciousness. That's all. We're just this body. It's just the bulb so the light can shine. And so you, by connecting to that, that essentially allows you to connect to your intuition, which is part of the reason that you are able to sort of look at these stories and not really take them on as your own, these negative stories that you might be running. And so other ways is if it's causing you to sort of your baseline to be a lot more positive and really calm, it allows you to not really get caught in any negative interactions you might have with your partner, particularly because, I mean, I know that I have disagreements with my partner for sure. My husband and I, we don't see eye to eye. We're sort of like two very different people. And so if I don't have a way to regulate that, and he shows me who I am and all the parts of me I don't like. And so if I don't have a lot of awareness of that, I'm going to think that it's about me. The things that he's saying, I'm maybe going to take them the wrong way, or I'm going to, like I said, either create negative beliefs, or he's going to rub on a raw emotional point that I haven't resolved. And so mindfulness kind of allows me to separate myself from that place. It keeps my baseline calmer. And here's a little story about how I still use how I still use mindfulness in my relationship. So when my husband and I we were in a period where we were beginning to reconcile, but not really. I went to my aunt's wedding. I took my daughters and we went to my aunt's wedding, and he didn't come. And so he called me on our way home, and it wasn't a very pleasant phone call. I won't say much more, but other than it basically culminated in me saying, well, I will maybe just talk to you later. Bye. And leaving it at that. And so this triggered my nervous system. So I felt the anxiety. I felt the anger. I was running the negative story in my head. Like, how dare he talk to me like that? And so once we got home, I went upstairs and I immediately started to meditate, because I know what it does for me, and it puts my baseline back where it needs to be. And it lets me drop that like negative, crappy story that I'm running in my head now. And so 2 hours later, he phones me, and it was like none of that even ever happened. He was all happy and joyful. And I do this consistently. This is a tool that I use all the time. When I am triggered by what he's doing or saying, or what he's doing or saying isn't really preferable to me because he's being really, you know, he's ticking me off and he's being negative or something, I'll meditate. Because once I get because I know that we regulate the energy of the people around us and the people with whom we're entangled, and you and your partner are entangled. So by me moderating my own energy and really harnessing that and taking control of that, I actually begin to modify the people around me in a positive way. And so that's kind of how I use mindfulness on a pretty regular basis. Sometimes I use it more like a Band-Aid, but over the last few years I've started, or I guess over the last year, I have started using it consistently, and I find there's not a lot that really tips me over the edge for very long. And so that's one really major benefit, because when you want to create something, you want to be able to align your emotions and your thoughts with that thing. And so if you have a tool that helps you regulate one or both, then win-win. And so I'm going to wrap this up. And if you have any questions, let me know. But I'm going to wrap this up by talking about that meditation or mindfulness doesn't have to be a long time, particularly for people that they don't really enjoy meditation. They almost have to be forced into it. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It would. Yeah, it definitely would. And it can be a really useful tool, but I'm not going to say it's like an overnight thing. It really can take a lot of internal work to kind of get yourself at that regulated point. I've been there. Sometimes I've had to meditate again and then again and then again and then again. So yeah, by no means do I mean to say it's just like this. But when you're starting meditating, if you resist it, you actually don't, or if you're in a place where it's not really available to you. So sometimes I might have been like out in the street and I feel really a lot of tension. I can't just, excuse me, everyone, I'm just going to meditate a couple minutes to feel better. So a really quick in your pocket mindfulness practice can be really useful. And if you don't enjoy meditation or it's too long or whatever, you can use a method developed by psychotherapist Phil Bossier. I'm probably brutalizing his name. And so it's called the 3x3 method. And basically he combined the most basic awareness activity with the most basic breathing activity. And so if I am in a moment, say I am in my child's school and I want to pick her up, or I'm in the middle of an argument and I really want to just calm myself or like get a hold of myself, what you will do is you're going to find 3 items. So in this case, I'm going to find, I have a hair clip here. I have some laundry here because I've again hidden away while the whole family's downstairs making a lot of noise. And I have a light behind me. So I'm going to find these 3 items. And I'm not going to add any descriptors or modifiers to them because these actually create an emotional response in you, or they will trigger a memory or something. And that sort of defeats the purpose of getting into the present moment. So you just want to be present with the item, no like black hair clip, just hair clip. So I'm going to demonstrate it. So breathe in, hair clip. Breathe in. Laundry. Sorry, I'm having a hard time taking myself seriously with that one. And then light. And if you try that, you're going to see that it really allows you to sort of snap into the present moment in a moment when you really can't clear the room to meditate. So hopefully that helps you make the quick one work. Because I work with a lot of people who resist meditation, I've developed an arsenal of one, but that one is one of my personal favorites. So yeah. I am going to wrap this up unless anybody has any other questions. And then tomorrow I'm going to post a video breaking down different meditations, because as I said before, there's actually no wrong way to meditate. Well, maybe if you're talking, but not even necessarily then. So there's a lot of different ways to meditate, and they each have a different function and they each have a different effect. So really, there's no wrong way. It's really just a matter of what it is you want to gain from it. So until then, have a really fantastic evening. And I really appreciate those of you that showed up. All right. Okay, bye. If I can figure out how to get here.